The other thing is this. Privilege that makes independence, that makes individual, does not make friendship. Friendship is founded on poverty. That there is something about you that desires to express something that lives inside you to another, and you find the other trustworthy, close enough. Poverty. You know, in Iran, because of the social climate, it may be hard for you to imagine this, but it's very true. It still is. That you have pockets of people, 5 here, 10 here, 2 here. Because again of the poverty that society and the politics creates for people, they stand together. These are complete strangers, okay? And yet they stand for hours and talk politics and talk about the social issues. And then one of them says, I'm going to go get some tea and bring. And everybody sits and drinks tea, eats food. At least that's what I remember from my time and generation. Those things may not exist, but I doubt. I think they still do. If you have the privilege of sitting in your room and doing your work and coming out once in a while, what the poverty you have is, I've been locked up in this room for 5 hours. I just need some fresh air. I need the change of scenery. You're not going out there to create friendships, to become intimate with anyone on an emotional stage. You just kind of want to rest area for 5-10 minutes, and then you're going to go back to your home. And if you kind of go back to the fact, at least for me, that you have, a physical human being, and you have an emotional human being, and then you have a psychological human being, and then you have an intellectual human being, and then you have a spiritual human being. It's not very difficult to become friends with people of the body. There are lots of things out there that you can pursue and have fun. Okay? But when you say to yourself, I am looking for people with specific emotions, okay? Whether those emotions are of sadness or trauma or despair or depression, whatever the case may be, okay? You're no longer looking for friendships down here, people of the body, looking for specific emotions. Then you say, I'm looking for people who know a little bit about Immanuel Kant or Ramana Maharshi. Now you're looking at a different set of people with whom you want to kind of create friendships with. And then there's a spiritual part, And as you move up, it becomes a bit more tricky, The other thing is, despite the fact that all of us were really close and intimate friends, the 4 of us or 3 of us that would go to Hussein, because the degree of our intensity was almost on the same platform, and we all went to Hussein's house in a relatively sad and sorrowful mood, nobody ever laughed. because one of the things that, when I think back, I realize that because we had so much respect for the environment, for the people there, Hussein, and Mehrdad, okay, and myself, nobody had a belly laugh. It just didn't happen. There is this thing in the Naqshbandis, the 8 steps. The first one is called, not the first one, but one of them is called Yad Bud. Yad Bud means to remember. And to remember means this. Ginning had 8 hours of work today. Okay. And then she remembers that this is Thursday. And remembering that this is Thursday brings about a sense of homesickness. The fact that it is true I have an apartment, it's just not a home. It is true that I have spoken to a lot of people. It was mostly chatter. Okay? And all of a sudden this longing begins to kind of be created inside her. She comes to the house with that longing. Now, if there is someone over there who is LOLing, laughing out loud, okay, what's going to happen to Ginning is that she's going to become more introverted. She may smile on the outside just to fit in, okay? But for her, it's an agonizing environment because her emotions, the intentions with which she came into this house, they're not being seen. They're not being respected. And that's something you learn to do or not to do as you begin to spend time with people and as you begin to create friendships. But, she can come here with a state of poverty and me just in a state of privilege in privilege you always forget. You always become callous. You always become forgetful. And then you overstep your boundaries, And I remember even, Saeed's sister, Maheen. I think she came to the gathering maybe in that, I don't know, 5-10 years that we had them maybe twice or 3 times. Now outside of the gathering, her and I would kind of joke around once in a while, and Saeed would also instigate, he would make things worse. But at the gatherings at Hussein's house, it was as if we were complete strangers. She didn't joke. She didn't chatter. She just said, Amir, how are you doing? How are your parents? That was it. And all of us kind of waited silently until Hussein, would kind of come in and sit on the sofa. To give you a few more examples of privilege, and this is not to say anything negative about you guys. You all have similar professions. So you sit there, you say, so what's your schedule next semester? Oh, I'm teaching philosophy of law. Say, oh yeah, I taught that class a few years ago. I'll send you the syllabus. You don't smell poverty in that. And it may be an icebreaker. I don't know. But basically, again, going back to Yad Bud, it's always good to remember, why you went to humanities and why you went to philosophy and why you walk to class and speak of the things that you do. there is a fragrance of poverty in it. And so when you guys gather, you should, that's a totem that creates a very sacred environment. And that makes for a great friendship.
Question. So, when you say poverty, and when we are gathering here, so what do you mean? Like, so then is there a certain kind of energy that we have to carry, or not even carry, but is there a way that we should be? It's not even should be, but can you be more a little bit specific? Because
there are lots of movies where, there are men who are going to a meeting, or there is a women's shelter where all these women are sitting. One movie, it's a really good movie, and I watch it once in a while because this woman goes on this journey to kind of destroy everyone, or all the men. Women call her and they say, my husband or my boyfriend is hitting me or doing ABCD to me. And she's a martial artist. She's really good. Combat training. And so she kind of, puts a face mask on, figures out where this man is, goes and beats him up, and says to him that if you touch her ever again, I will just end your life. But the point I'm trying to make is that, so you have this woman who goes to this meeting, and there are like 10, 15 women, and they all come from, an environment where the male figure in their life has been very abusive, physically, verbally, emotionally, And so you don't find any of the women as they're sharing their stories to be laughing. Most of them are in a very depressed mood. You can feel the sadness in their voice. They're always just crying as they're sharing the stories. And as the other women are sitting and just hearing all of these, they also cannot but have a very sad demeanor to them, No one cracks a joke. No one makes fun of someone's experiences. Nobody throws a red herring or a conversation that kind of takes the community to a different environment. People are there to share their tragic stories. That's the way they find release. That's the way they find balance and health. So there is no one there who's going to jeopardize that, I'm not talking about our gathering, because we're friends and we're relatively casual, and that's the way it ought to be. But should you, find yourself in a more serious setting with people who are, someone not so much like me because I'm very casual, someone who's a bit more serious about this stuff, then you need to pay very, very close attention to the way you carry yourself, to the way you sit, to the way you talk, to ask questions, the tone of your voice, how passive or aggressive it should be. I remember in the 10 years of our gatherings, I only joked once. And that one time, Hussein looks up, and I said something about Krishnamurti, because Krishnamurti was all about, you don't need a teacher, you can figure things out on your own, pay attention, mindful. And this was near the end of, my relationship with Hussein as a student teacher, And I cracked a joke. And Hussein kind of just looks up and says, you don't think I can tell jokes? You don't think I'm funny? You think we're, not serious here? And, I didn't really grasp or understand the immensity of what I had done and what he was saying. Many years passed by, where I think back and I say, well, at what stage do you kind of, when an environment is serious, for example, at what stage in your own life or maturity, I can't say maturity, but in your own intellectual life, do you just crack a joke that's uncalled for? It's because you no longer see the people the way you should. You no longer see Hussein the way you used to. You no longer see the journey or the path, or you're no longer intimate with the ideas the way you used to. You no longer have the longing. You're a bit more comfortable. And that creates a good amount of privilege. And privilege always allows you to cross lines, to say things, do things, behave in ways that are inappropriate. It's like going to a funeral service and just sitting and laughing. If you're a mother, that's fine, because sometimes that's the way you kind of express pain. But if you're a complete stranger, where the mother has just lost a son, it's a place where people have a good amount of sorrow inside them, and you should be mindful of that. There are different kinds of poverties. It may be that, this is not about you hypothetical, it may be that you are here because you simply have nowhere else to go. It may be for Cassie that Cassie has places to go, but she chose to be here because she has emotional poverty. There are friends here that she wants to see. There are conversations here that she wants to have. It's not that she has no place to go. She has. But she has poverty in this area, and that poverty can kind of be satisfied or nourished Thursday night here, for example. And so what you may be poor in, she may not be poor in. And what she may be poor in, you may not be poor in. She may be poor in having these questions that she has no answers to. Your poverty may not even be the questions. Your poverty is, well, you just want to sit here and be around people. Now, it may be that Gening doesn't really care for the loneliness that you're suffering from. She may not even care for the spiritual questions that Cassie may have. What Gening wants to really ask, her poverty is, my boyfriend and I were having an argument last night, and I'm not quite sure how the relationship is going to unfold. How can I fix that? Okay? Now, the three of you can never be friends because your poverties are different. Poverties create for different questions, different language, different intensity, different emotions. Lula, if you're a human being, you're going to be deficient in some ways. If you're deficient, you don't have. If you don't have, you're poor. When you're poor, you beg in hopes of having. People go to therapy for what reason? People go to coffee shops for one reason. When I stay home and do work, I fall asleep after 10 minutes. I don't have those invisible components that a coffee shop has. It's busy with people. It's noisy. It's lively. I can't fall asleep in a coffee shop. So when I'm at the house, I suffer from that poverty. I don't have the stuff that the coffee shop has. You just need to find people who share the same poverties, and you need to make sure those poverties are actually healthy. You know, one of our friends from childhood, my brother goes out with them once in a while. And sometimes Iraj, you know, he complains saying, I get these texts and they are filled with profanities and they are sexists and there's just so many things wrong with the language in these texts. And I sit back and I say, man, you're close to 60. You shouldn't be talking this way. You know, but my brother is saying, you know, and he teaches psychology and sociology and all this stuff, he says, I want to just sit with these people and have a nice conversation. It just doesn't happen. I'm just going to go out with them another couple of times and I'm just going to quit. Change my phone number. You know, you want to be around people, but you want to be around the right people. You know, it's not that you don't enjoy sex. You enjoy sex very much. You just want to have sex with the right person. You know, and maybe that's the reason why Jackie never talks here. And maybe she has every right not to talk. You know, she doesn't perhaps yet know where exactly in this room she belongs. You know, do we speak the same language? Can we understand her questions or her emotions behind the questions? You know, maybe it's just a test drive for her for the next couple of months until she comes to realize either this is no good for her, or maybe she just needs to be here a few more times to be more certain. I don't know. Or maybe she's just a silent type. You know, since Genning went to the workshop yesterday, not workshop, but the talk by Jordan Peterson, one of the things he was talking about is suffering. You know. Life is going to make you suffer. Pain. Once you begin to suffer, there is going to be pain. Pain makes you poor. You will journey to find a remedy. You know, and you can suffer from all different areas of life. You can suffer physically, you can suffer emotionally. You just need to find people who speak the same language. You know, if you have a toothache, when I have a toothache, I don't go to Murtaza and talk politics. We don't even talk, you know, when I go to him.